Hello you, it's me, and welcome again to the Table of Wonder, where I have 3 Jack-in-the-Box Jacks. I think all from, I think 2 are from the same. I think this one and this one are around the same time, and this one was done at a different time. I'm not completely sure, but they're all still cute. Anyway, the thing I want to discuss today is I was thinking so much about Pete's and about Chantal and this relationship they had for so long, and how she's really, I don't know, just kind of screwed Pete's in a lot of ways. I think she made a lot of promises. This is my opinion, from what I've heard from her and from him, that she's made a lot of promises to him that she just never kept. And I think she springs things on him just all of a sudden, and I just felt like she's treated him pretty badly. He's not perfect either, but I still think with their dynamic, they do use each other to some degree, but I think that she makes a lot of promises that she doesn't keep and really hurts Pete's. I mean, bad enough that she cheated on him when they were engaged and then left him for BB. And then, you know, he was right there for her when she needed him after they broke up 7 or 8 years later. So, I don't know. I just feel like Pete's has gotten the shaft from her. And it reminded me of something that happened to me. I was probably about 20 years old. I was going to school at a community college, and I needed a car. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of money. So a guy that I was working with at the time said that he had this VW Bug that he wanted to sell, and he said he would sell it to me for $250, which was pretty reasonable for what I received. It was a car that went. It worked, but there was no ignition key. There was a key, there was just no ignition. And the only way to start it was to hit a couple wires together until it started. Hot wiring, I think it used to be called. But it did drive well. The steering wheel was very loose, so you had to continuously, or I had to continuously, work the steering wheel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just to stay in a straight line. So was it, you know, an optimal car, but it worked. And at 20, it was okay. So I paid the $250 and I got the car, and it was such a cute little car. I loved it. I really did. I loved that little car. And so I used it to get to school and to get to work. One day, I didn't realize how bad the gas gauge was. It didn't tell me how much gas I had in it. I had to kind of guess, and I didn't guess well. And I ran out of gas. And it was right next to my school. So I parked my car. It was on a fairly busy road, but still, I felt like it was safe. And I called my roommate at the time and said, hey, can you pick me up? My car died out. So he came to pick me up, and we left the car where it was. And I told him I wanted to go get gas, but he, I guess, had other things on his mind, and he said, let's do it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Saturday, we'll be able to deal with it better. And I thought, okay, you know, I don't have a lot of choice here. I didn't think it would be a big deal either to leave the car there overnight. So the next day, I went with, I had 2 roommates, so I went with them and another friend of ours, and we went to go check out the car. And when we got there, the engine of this car, it was I think it was a 1969 VW Bug. I'm not quite sure, but the engine was in the back, not in the front. And so they opened up the back, and they saw that the carburetor in the back had been stolen, which apparently was a pretty normal thing for people to do with VW bugs. They'd steal parts from the engine. So, of course, the car wouldn't start even after we put some gas in it. And I just felt defeated because these friends of mine, roommates and friend, told me that it would be very expensive to get a new carburetor for this car. And so he asked me if I would sell it to him instead. And I felt kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And me not knowing a whole lot of cars a whole lot about cars at that time. And both of them being mechanics. 2 out of 3 of those guys were mechanics. I thought, okay, well, they know what they're talking about. So I sold it to the friend, not a roommate, but a friend of the roommate, for $50. And I was devastated because I loved that little car. I really did. And I didn't have it for very long. So I was frustrated. You know, your freedom kind of taken from you because your car is gone. So, sometime down the road, that friend came over to me and said, "How the heck do you drive that car?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And this is what he did. He went to this, it's a well-known parts junkyard, well-known by mechanics, where they can get a car part for much cheaper. And so he got a carburetor for my car that was probably about $20. Now remember, he told me that it would be extremely expensive to replace that part, and that's why I should sell it to him. So finding out that it took him $20 to replace the part and put it in to make it work, that ticked me off. He ripped me off big time. But he was so perplexed. He's like, "How do you drive this car?" Because as I said, the car steering wheel was very funky and loose, and you had to, you know, go back and forth with it just to make it go straight. And of course, no key for the ignition. You had to wire it. And he said, "I figured out how to wire it, but I don't know how you can drive it. This thing is undrivable." And so I laughed because he screwed me, but in the end, I got the last laugh. I said, "Well, I guess you'll never know." I refused to tell him how to drive the car because he didn't deserve it. He tried to rip me off. And obviously, he wasn't a good friend or a good person. Sorry, my cat is playing with some paper right now. So if you hear that noise, that's what it is. There's a box with some paper that came today, a little chewy package for the babies so that they had some good food and treats. Anyway, yeah, so he deserved what he got, and he ended up selling the car to I think he sold it for parts or gave it away for parts because he couldn't do anything with the car. And you know what? Serves him right. Serves him right. He wasn't being a good friend. He didn't try to help me out. He just tried to screw me over, and he screwed himself in the end. And good on him. He deserved it. And so when I think of Chantal and all the things that she's done, yeah, I can't help but think, once again, karma's gonna get her. And I wonder if she'll actually be able to get to Kuwait, because if she doesn't pay back those back taxes, they're gonna garnish everything that she has. And if she gives it to Salah, then she's gonna have nothing, and they're still gonna come after her at some point. And it's gonna be a big old mess. You know, her trying to run away from her financial obligations and running to a guy who probably isn't what she thinks he is. And in the meantime, burning a billion bridges. She's burning bridges with her family, with her friend, with the poor kitties who are now hopefully in much better homes. Well, we know BBJ is. Hopefully Sam is too. But she's burned all her bridges, and she fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, it's going to catch up to her. And I kind of feel bad for her because I think it's going to hit her a lot harder than she realizes. But that's when you do. That's what happens when you screw people over. That's what happens. You get what you deserve. And I think she's going to get abundance of it. Anyway, that's all I got to say.